Welcome back. We now have our roundtable. Alicia Nails from Wayne State University School of Journalism and Leonard Flemings from the Detroit News. Both of you listened to the interview that Rayford Jackson just gave. What do you make of it?
I find it interesting that he asserted on to Hugh Perkins that Fanchen Stinger herself delivered money or accepted money from Senegro and had a 1099 tax form indicating that. I'm sorry, delivered money to the Chronicle and to the Michigan Front Page and to Adolph Mongo, but he didn't say that to you.
Yeah, I was wondering because we never received anything from the Chronicle. I don't know about the Michigan Front Page. I heard about the Michigan Citizen as well.
But directly from
And these are the
Fanchen.
black papers, right?
Because what you can look to is when you're trying to weigh his veracity versus her veracity, which is a little bit beyond gossip in that it speaks to his veracity in the entire operation.
Do you think what he said is believable?
Who knows? And so I can only weigh some of the other factors. Like, why wouldn't he say to you, remember, Fanchen herself brought money to the Michigan Chronicle, but he said that to Hugh Perkins.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the Michigan Chronicle advertising department, but my knowledge is no money was received from the Michigan Chronicle for Senegro. Maybe they might have done advertisement. Who knows? Leonard?
Well, it's a he said, she said situation right now. But I spoke to Rayford 3 months ago exclusively in the Detroit News before his guilty plea, and he sounded some of the same themes of some regret, but also just changes he would have done differently. And it was interesting in that interview with me, he made sure and took pains to protect Fanchen. He didn't want her mentioned in the story at all, and that was a bone of contention, especially when I mentioned that they were once lovers and that she lost her job over this particular scandal. He was very upset about that. So I think deep down inside, I think it bothered him to have Fanchen come back and drop the hammer on him in terms of the allegations of domestic violence and the like.
Go ahead.
No one wants to be a villain. Even if you've done something wrong and you're willing to accept the fact that maybe you have a legal problem, nobody wants to be known as a villain in the community. So keeping her out of the full context of the story is a way not to go there.
Now, you are a journalism instructor at Wayne State University. I think the other question here is the nexus between politics and media. Should, in fact, media people should be in the company of political operatives, and people who are, whining and dining people in the community? Because when you look at the story of Rayford Jackson and Fanchen Stinger and her eventually losing her job, I think it boils down to that bigger question of where do media people place themselves?
I think it depends on how you do it. I mean, realize we've got national correspondents and national anchors who are married to people who are business people lobbying the government or what have you. So it's how do you do it? Where do you go? Do you participate with them out in public? Do you appear at public meetings with them? And certainly, I think that you're always going to have a problem when you set up a company that does more than media-related things. We have anchors and reporters in town. We saw Emory King make a beautiful transition because he already had a production company. He was doing documentaries, and now he's with the Detroit Medical Center. If you have your own company and it's within journalistic, ethics, that's one thing. To have a company that's doing other things, I think you always set yourself up for problems.
Yeah, it's certainly a risk. I mean, you've had other news anchors involved with high-profile politicians. Right. Mayor Bill Campbell was dating a news anchor, Marion Brooks, who I think is a news anchor in Chicago now. When he was mayor of Atlanta and during his corruption probe, she testified in his trial. That would have been very similar to Rayford's situation had he gone to trial. You would have seen Fanchen testify on the Fed's behalf. So it's a dicey situation, and and she put herself in the crosshairs of the federal government because they were watching Rayford, they were taping him. They have numerous tapes of both of them together, and even Fanchen's own station, Fox 2, had her on tape in meetings with Rayford. So from what they've reported, as I recall, there were warnings to her to say, stay away from this guy. You need to, get out of this situation. You're putting yourself at risk. Yeah. So I don't know how much culpability was on her part.
And we want to indicate that, in fact, Fanchen Stinger is invited on this program to state her case as well, for the record. But I think the other issue is the domestic violence allegations here, which are very serious allegations, and Rayford vehemently denied those. What do you make of that?
Well, that's a he said, she said situation. We weren't there. Who knows? I know that her agent has stated that apparently there are some FBI tapes out there. The feds will never, you know, release
They won't weigh in on
those
this.
tapes or confirm or deny. But if those tapes exist, perhaps, as I think Rayford pointed out in one of the other interviews he did recently, that maybe there were some heated arguments. I don't know. Perhaps they do have situations where he smacked her around. It would be a sad situation if that were to happen, but one never knows. But again, you're in a situation now where perhaps she is trying to resurrect her career, certainly getting out there with a big splash, first on Channel 7 and then with
Do you
the Free
think
Press.
do you think she'll resurrect? She'll come back?
Of course. Kobe Bryant is back getting endorsements. So Tiger
But Kobe
Woods
Bryant is a national brand, though.
We have had, now this was earlier, we're in a different day and age, but when I first started in television, there were people who jumped markets and changed names.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Alicia Nails and Leonard Fleming. Thank you very much for coming on Center Stage. And this is my opinion. You've listened to the interview that Rayford Jackson gave to our roundtable. I think it's very evident, very clear that Detroit needs to move ahead. And I think it's important that we emphasize transparency, accountability, and probity in the affairs of government. And we in the media have a responsibility, a dutiful responsibility, to hold elected officials and everybody who is attempting to be at the public draw accountable, hold their feet to the fire. I think it's important. Detroit cannot afford to be in this sort of national scandals, and this sort of scandals that give us a bad national image. So Detroit in 2010 must ask for a different page, must turn a different page. And this is our edition of Center Stage for this week. Next week, we'll bring you a special report on black women and the study from Yale University.